Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha with Ice Cream Fitness here, and I want to do just a couple of things today. First of all, I want to thank Chris Jones for the shout out he gave me yesterday. It is appreciated. It looks like I gained about 700 subscribers overnight. So it's always nice when someone like Chris gives me a shout out, and I look forward to doing some further collaboration work with him. Because Chris is always fun to work with. He's a funny guy. And also I want to talk about something else that came up in the comments in my video yesterday, and it's something that I don't think people always understand or think about who don't have a real science background or a medical background or a nutrition background. But hold on, let me give you guys a bicep shot first. People were commenting in yesterday's video about the fact that ketogenic diets are supported by several doctors, and they named something like 5 medical doctors. And people oftentimes do this when they want to push a certain extreme diet approach. It doesn't matter if it's a ketogenic diet or a raw vegan diet or a paleo diet or whatever it happens to be. Yes, there's a medical doctor out there somewhere who supports it. But what you need to keep in mind is that there's a few problems here. First of all, medical doctors do not specialize in nutrition. They take a minimal amount of nutritional science in medical school. A freshman level nutrition student generally has taken, by the end of their first semester, more nutrition and more hours of nutrition than the average medical doctor gets in their 8 years of school. It isn't their area of expertise. It's not to say that a lot of them are not knowledgeable about it, but it's not what they specialize in. And that is something that needs to be kept in perspective when you are looking at these things of what is this person's area of expertise. Another thing to consider is that the overwhelming majority of dietitians and medical doctors out there oftentimes completely disagree with this individual. And you might have someone who supports ketogenic diets for weight loss or for health for some reason who is a medical doctor, but 99% of medical doctors and dietitians out there are going to think he's a quack. Now, you shouldn't necessarily use that to say that they're right or wrong, because it's just as wrong to say these other doctors are right than it is to say this person's right because they're a doctor, because that's called appeal to authority, and we are human, we are flawed, we make mistakes. And the problem becomes when any of these doctors write a book on a topic, anything that they say after that point becomes biased material at that point. And it's just like in research, if a researcher is conducting research in an area in which he has any previous past or potential future interest in making a profit upon, that research is considered biased. And peer reviewers are supposed to note that in the peer reviews, that it is biased because this person has a financial interest. And because we as people do that, when we have a personal bias towards something, we don't always look at it as critically or cover the details as much as we should, even if it's subconsciously, because we have an interest in a given outcome. And that's what you see with these doctors who produce these type of books, that they're going to ignore future research that completely disagrees with everything they've said, because they now have a financial and a career interest in everything they said being right. And so when you've had doctors in the past talk about the metabolic advantage of a ketogenic diet or the appetite suppressing effects, it doesn't matter to them that we've come to understand this better, and with later research that we've actually learned that this isn't completely true. They completely ignore that new research. We know that not everybody has appetite suppression upon ketogenic diets, that high-fat diets are not appetite suppressing for everyone. They are for a percentage of the population, and for a lot of people they don't work for that. As far as the metabolic advantage, we have found out through future very closely controlled studies that there is no metabolic advantage to a ketogenic diet at all. That it turns out that the only advantage we could find was from the high protein intake, and if you were to take a diet that is ultra high carb, people lost just as much fat if they kept the protein the same, with the total net calories the same. But the doctors who are writing books on this are going to completely ignore that because it's not in their advantage to do so. So keep that in mind, that when you look at something like this, just because that person is a doctor doesn't mean that they're right. It doesn't mean that the scientific consensus agrees with them, and it doesn't mean that they're not capable of making mistakes, or that they're not prone to personal bias towards something, particularly once it has become financially profitable or lucrative for them. Alright guys, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you next time.